Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for 7 Tips to Rock Ratings and Reviews as part of the Industry Insight series. Our speaker today is Jean Clausen. Jean serves as a legal industry advocate at ARAG, an international legal insurance provider. Jean brings a decade of industry experience to the role with a focus on fostering relationships with state and local bar associations, as well as incubators. Her goal is to provide these entities resources and opportunities to help them educate consumers on how to identify their legal needs, assert their rights, and understand the value of working with an attorney. She also leads a team of network development associates whose primary focus is on connecting solo and small practice attorneys with business development opportunities on the ARAG Attorney Network. Through her work, Jean is a fierce advocate of helping to build a bridge of access between consumers who need legal help and solo and small firm practice attorneys looking to expand their client base. She is also a member of the Legal Marketing Association, serves on the State Bar of California Task Force on Access through Innovation of Legal Services, and is past president of the Group Legal Services Association, where she works to champion solo and small practice attorneys as a vital solution to the access to justice problems in America. The presentation today will be followed by a Q&A. Please enter your questions into the question box in the webinar panel on the right side of your screen. All questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. We are recording this webinar and we will be sending the video in a follow-up email. We will also post the video on our blog at www.lawtechnologytoday.org. Thank you all for joining us. We'll now begin the webinar.
Thank you, Gabby. So today we're here to talk how to rock client ratings and reviews. And as Gabby shared, I'm Jean Clausen, and I'm a legal industry advocate with ARAG. And so I appreciate all of you making the time to invest in this and take time out of your day and away from your business to have this time together. So today, in regards to ratings and reviews, I would like to share why ratings and reviews have become even more popular and essential for attorneys and their business. And I'll go through 7 tips from some in-depth research and interactions that ARAG has had and conducted with more than 600,000 consumers that we are working with, and more than 14,000 network attorneys that are also participating in the ARAG network. And then at the end, we'll leave plenty of time for questions and comments, as we'd love to hear maybe also what you're doing in your firm that's working well. And so we'll have that availability towards the end. So let's kick it off. So why are ratings and reviews for attorneys so important? Well, when we maximize the insights from our consumer and attorney audiences of more than 1 million plan members and 14,000 network attorneys, and we also surveyed and worked with members of the American Bar Association to learn more about the client experience journey from both an individual legal need consumer perspective and an attorney perspective. We feel we needed both sides of that coin, so to speak, to make sure we're getting the full picture and finding all the opportunities of what's working well today and where maybe some of those gaps are where we can further add some and heighten service. So for all those interactions, we surveyed, we asked members to rate attorneys on things like experience, interactions, communication, and really encourage them to provide the attorney they worked with ratings and reviews in more detail. So really that end-to-end discovery and journey versus just surveying on the initial interaction or maybe surveying on the very end, where then it might just that inherently talk about outcomes or satisfaction-based outcomes. So based on outcomes. So we really want to make sure that every step of the way throughout that engagement process and that journey that we're asking those questions and learning about that consumer experience. And these results provide valuable information on where attorneys are really excelling today in that service process and where there's some opportunities according to the consumers or the individuals that they're working with. On the flip side, we then surveyed 14,000 attorneys within our network, and we do this on an annual basis to really find also what's working really well and where some of their pain points are in working with consumers and ARAG to better understand how can we heighten the overall experience within the collaborative working partnership. So last year we led a special survey of our network and ABA members to learn more about how they're managing the client service model today. And today I'm going to share some of those highlights that came from that and the value that came from a lot of that collective feedback we received. So one of the questions we asked, that we'll talk about for ratings and reviews, is why is it important for attorneys to collect and share ratings and reviews with their consumers? Most importantly, reason that consumers want reviews. So in today's market, consumers expect to be able to go online and research and look for reviews before they make purchases, pick providers or services, and using an attorney and legal services is no different. Consumers really want to know, how are you stacking up against the other professionals in your market and within your practice? And they're really actively already searching for dentist ratings, doctor ratings, product ratings, and so they can even see their teacher ratings online for their children's schools. So purchasing legal services is no different because it's all coming from the same mindset and perspective of a consumer. So something we always talk about and that you hear a lot about in the marketplace, word of mouth referrals is not a growth strategy or your only growth strategy. That's not going to be the most effective in bringing visibility to your firm or helping expand your practice. The ABA found that 1/3 of all legal consumers turn to online resources first to identify information on attorneys and find a little bit of background, maybe on their experience, what their profile is, what are some of those organizations and activities they're involved in within their community, to really feel like they're identifying with an attorney that's like them. So somebody that's going to have maybe some of those same social perspectives or values, and is somebody that they're interested in identifying with and working with. Many attorneys, unfortunately, aren't doing enough today to create a positive online presence, leveraging ratings and reviews. There is so much more attorneys that could be doing to increase their visibility and creating a presence. And I find more often than not, many attorneys don't have any presence at all or control of their own presence. So what I mean by that is many attorneys are being rated or reviewed, even if they don't know it, or even if they aren't providing the tools and the mechanisms to collect that themselves. So many attorneys often say or come from the perspective of, my business is based on word of mouth. I assume satisfied clients will tell friends and family. And so as you'll see as we move forward as well, that you want to be taking more measurable actions to make sure that you're getting those referrals and getting that visibility. So without ratings and reviews, there's a missed opportunity for business growth. If consumer data doesn't help convince or drive your understanding that ratings and reviews are important, there's also the perspective of gaining visibility over your competition in the market. So when we surveyed our network of 14,000 attorneys and those members of the American Bar Association, we found that 81% of attorneys are not actively engaged in nurturing ratings and reviews. So too many solo and smalls right now are relying on the hope that their satisfied clients will lead to additional business. Or others might state, I just don't have time built in, or know where to start, or I'm not sure if it's really important to my other clients. And so we're here to just kind of bring a little bit of highlight and recognition that attorneys that are using ratings and reviews are getting creating visibility and access among their competitors, and have a sense of higher credibility and trust factor that they're conveying to the people that are looking for legal services as well. So ratings and reviews also can be a way that consumers are finding an attorney. For a majority, which is about 62% of consumers, the first step in the discovery process is to ask friends and family, do you know of an attorney? that might have ideas around my divorce or that can execute a will or can help me with a landlord-tenant issue. And typically they're not even explaining, an average person isn't explaining it down to kind of a legal matter type. They're really just explaining, here's my life issue. Do you know where I go to resolve that? So sometimes, and most often we find data shows that the average person doesn't even know or might not know that they even need to involve an attorney in the process. So the second step that many of those consumers are taking to identify who to work with is to check out attorney referrals online. So if you look to the millennial generation and those 30-year-olds that are really fueling the growth and consumer base for firms as they are in any other industry, you'll see increasingly over the next 20 years how much more important the presence of online reviews will be. So as you can see, there's a growing age gap between the audience providing those services, like yourself, and the audience that is coming to them, so the average person off the street. And one of the most important things that we found is the communication gap opportunities between these two groups, which can help really pump up your online presence as well. Again, as we mentioned, this is the age group and the audience that is going to be, that actually is today, the largest consumers in our market. So having a little background on why ratings and reviews are so important and why consumers are using those in their day-to-day identification of attorneys and who to go to for help, we want to provide, based on all of our research and what's really working well, tips on how you yourself can rock ratings and reviews and really leverage that to build your business. So tip one, it's all about the client experience. So I provided an example in this slide where the client gave some feedback, and I'll read that. Every step of the process was painful. He didn't return my phone calls. He didn't tell me what to expect. I never knew where we stood on our case. I would not want to work with him or his firm again. So this was an example where the attorney won the case, and the attorney responded, I won the case for my client and they received everything they asked for. I don't feel this rating is justified. So this is where we were mentioning, or I was mentioning earlier, there's a disconnect in the perspective of the consumer and the perspective of the attorney. And the more closely aligned we can bring those perspectives, the overall success will increase for those attorneys that are looking to work with consumers. So in this example, the client is sharing their expectations, not just what was the outcome of my case, but I really wanted to have that person act professional, know they're doing a good job, set clear expectations with me, and build that trust and credibility along the way. That to a consumer or an average person, the experience they're having with you and the customer service is just as important as your technical legal knowledge. And this is a great way to differentiate yourself from the other attorneys in your market and stand out. Tip 2, communicate and be a good listener. So I think the important piece of this is this applies to everyone in your office, not just you. So whether you, if you're a solo practitioner, obviously you're the one handling the end-to-end experience and journey with that client. However, a lot of offices either have frontline staff, phone answering services, or people that might be taking voicemails and then sharing those with the attorneys, or it might be even as sophisticated as having paralegals or other people in that experience with the client. And so it's just really important to brush up across the office collectively on the desk side manner that you're and how you're representing your firm. So when you're working with clients, ask questions, be inquisitive. I know you're being inquisitive already on, the legal need and the technical pieces that you need to help them with their service, but it's really understanding and empathizing with the human perspective as well aspect. So repeat back to the client what your understanding of the situation is, putting it, kind of stripping off your legal speak, and putting it in legal ease to really plain language, share with that person, here's what they can expect, and here's what I'm hearing you say, the problem you're having, and then here's how that translates into the type of legal issue and the course of action that would be needed to help solution that, solve that, or provide service. So showing your clients they have your full attention and that you're both on the same page really prevents disconnects in the future as you go forward helping that person. So really set expectations with that conversation as well. So understand it's not a one-way conversation. It's a collaborative conversation. Even though you're the one bringing the expertise to the table, it's really making sure that that client feels they're a part of that experience with you. So tip 3, set expectations and understand common pitfalls. So this is a large area where we see a lot of attorneys struggle. So I'm going to dig in just a little bit deeper and provide some examples. Our research showed attorneys noted communication as also the thing that they struggle with most. And on the opposite side, this aligned with a lot of where the member satisfaction feedback was sharing their biggest pain points as well when they're working with attorneys and trying to get legal services. So, and whether it was a very highly successful attorney or an attorney that seems to be struggling, it seems to be that attorneys across the board are struggling in these top 3 areas noted on the slide. So, not surprisingly, attorneys with lower satisfaction ratings from clients in these areas also translated into seeing the highest number of complaints related to their ability to provide options, understand, and follow through. So not only are ratings and reviews important and in understanding the service aspect, but understanding how that translates and correlates into how complaints might even occur or be filed against you. So when you look at the graph, the top 3 things, response time, understanding how the process works, and frequency to communication. Those are really some of the gaps where we were seeing a disconnect and the data was showing attorneys and consumers are struggling. And we really relate this a lot in the marketplace. You'll hear this quite a bit as the Amazon effect to that first one. So response speed. Everyone expects now, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, that interactions are happening real time and right away. We understand that in the reality of business and the day-to-day that people can't be available. So you might not directly be available to return a call that within 5 minutes, or have somebody in your office if they need to see you in person that same day or the next day. But really that's not what consumers were asking for when they're talking about response time. Response time can really come down to even, do you have a voicemail that articulates you're out of the office, or the times that you are available and can respond, or do you have a calendar that's publicly accessible where someone could already schedule a time with you, so they already feel the satisfaction of taking an action and the relief of knowing I have a time and date set when we are going to come together and I'm going to be able to share what I'm going through and get some legal help. So it's really employing efficiencies in your practice as well. If you are a solo, or there are many times where you do have to focus and go to court or actually the practice of law, and in order to support your clients, maybe employing a service, a phone answering service, in place, or having chat capabilities on your website, just anything that's going to help that consumer understand that they feel that they had a place to turn, and that they knew you were either going, when you might be, a timeline of you might be responding, instead of just, I left a voicemail and then I never heard back, or I don't know when he's going to be in the office. He didn't leave a voicemail recorded message that says he's on vacation or he's in court this week. And I can't tell you how often that happens. I know it's a day-to-day, and many people say, oh, I always do that, and this is what I do. But I think it's just even further articulating what is that date that they could expect to hear from you, or what's another action they could be taking. Can they go to a calendar on your website and schedule a time with you? So really turning around when they feel like they're getting some resolution, and then clarifying how the process works. Again, remember, you have really great technical knowledge and understand the process of the courts and understand the typical design of how a legal matter moves forward. Your average person in the market does not. And so they may not understand there's 30 days in between filing or a court hearing. They might not understand how long does it take a court to turn something around. So maybe even design mapping or showing a very high level flow chart of what a person could expect. We do have attorneys we work with that will share that on their website for specific areas of practice, or when they're meeting with individuals, have a timeline and a process map so that that person that they're working with has an understanding of, when can I expect? That also will help you in the more meaningful areas of your practice, because you're not going to be constantly getting emails and voicemails from people saying, I haven't heard anything, it's been 2 days, now what can I expect, what's going on? And that does happen as well. So it will help you also keep focused on your main priorities as well. And kind of that third bar graph area, frequency to communicate. So this is a kind of a collaboration that you can do with your client when you're walking through services and what they can expect. Design how often can they expect to hear from you? When are those milestones that they need to maybe check in with you if they haven't heard from you? So it's really just putting together a very clear picture of how often should we be dialoguing? When is that? Where are those milestones in my matter that are going to make sense that you're going to reach out to me or I need to reach out to you? And how often is that going to be? That will also help you in your practice, not only serve the client better and get better reviews and ratings, but it's also going to help you manage your time. Again, that when consumers feel that they have a timeline and greater understanding of what to expect, that then they are their level of stress comes down, they won't call as frequently because they now trust you. Their trust factor goes up in your services as well. Another aspect of tip 3 with setting expectations, know your audience. So the key point to any service experience with a client is to adapt and fit to their needs. Service isn't always a one-size-fits-all approach. Based on research that we've done as a group, consumers believe their primary mode of communicating with you as an attorney will be face-to-face, email, or telephone. So even more so traditionally than within other industries. However, 20% of the general population and 30% of millennials expect you have flexibility to meet in public places when they're talking about face-to-face. They refer to things like a coffee shop or a mutual location that might be more convenient to where they live or work. And so you'll see similar statistics when they're talking about the use of text message and online chat. So it's helping those individuals to understand what are those expectations of how you'll offer service, and to keep that communication line open and transparent and timely for those people that you're working with. So, and if you are meeting in some of those places, really focusing on obviously confidentiality and doing it within the operational rules within your state and what they allow. And in contrast to some of what we're seeing in the millennial population, if you serve elderly population clients, you might find it's more important to then have flexibility. So again, not necessarily those clients coming to your office, but maybe setting up what I call more of a concierge service. I'm familiar with one of the attorneys we work with, and she actually has a system designed where she can complete a will over Zoom or Skype, and then actually has an attorney that goes out to the home of that individual to execute the will. So making it more convenient for those people that they're serving, and really that service then satisfaction increases along with that. Another aspect in regards to setting expectations that's really helpful is having communication preferences. We asked consumers how they prefer to work with an attorney on a legal issue. And again, the majority said face-to-face. And that really came down to not the type of matter that they had, but really in looking at that, it's a little bit to do with the severity of the legal matter or the level of stress that's associated with that. So it's important to understand when you're serving those audiences, what's the legal need that they have, what's kind of the severity of that, and know the audience that you're serving. If you're serving a younger audience, 42% of millennials prefer email communication comparatively to other generations. This distinction is really important as the millennial generation is becoming that largest age group in the population, and research expects that group will peak at 76.2 million people by 2036. And it's also worth mentioning that the millennials are more open to non-traditional models of communication. Non-traditional, I use that word like loosely because it's becoming traditional in a millennial mindset, where it's text, chat, or video. And we can only continue to watch that trend expand as the Generation Z population trends forward as well. So all of these consumer demographics are driving how businesses are doing business and by the type of consumer that they're interacting with. So again, when you're talking about communication, it's helpful to establish mutually agreed upon communication channels. So designing that with each person that you're meeting with. Do you want to communicate through email? What's the most effective or what's the fastest response time? Is that through text? Is that through email? So really establish upfront with your client the method of communication and the frequency of communication. That really helps support where we're seeing the highest ratings and reviews once that matter is completed. And then responsive time matters. I know we hear this repeatedly, but clients want to know that they're being heard. So keep the client up to date with their case status. So again, going back to sharing upfront what they can expect in milestones in that type of matter, and then continue to interject what the status of their matter or their case, and helping them understand on the front end at what frequencies you'll be communicating that with them and through what channel. So again, keep that mode of communication open, and again, going back to responsiveness, it could be as simple as updating your voicemail on your phone recording to let people know when you'll be available, when you can expect a call back, and make sure that you're returning every voicemail message. I can't stress this enough. Even if you're receiving inquiries from potential clients where you won't take the case, or it may not be a type of practice area that you serve, return the call. Whether you know it or not, clients are not even what you consider a client yet in that stage of the journey are submitting ratings and reviews online about your service. So in a average consumer's mind, they are interacting with you because they interacted with your website, they interacted with your voicemail. To them, that's engagement. To them, they're already seeing that there is a relationship there, versus a client or attorney perspective, where that relationship typically starts at actual engagement or representation. So if you're returning those voicemails, even if it's simply to say, I apologize, I am going to be in court during that time, or that's not an area that I'm able to assist with at this time, responding to that voicemail will also exponentially increase the satisfaction. And I have actually seen attorneys gain business in the future from taking that simple step. So I always say don't practice in a vacuum. By doing these steps of responsiveness, it really increases your credibility and trust in the people that you could be working with. So with expectations comes removing the mystique of cost and value. So I would say the number one kind of a key factor that the legal industry can really heighten their service to an everyday person or consumers is transparency. Transparency, 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 especially as it relates to costs and fees. As you can expect, again, millennials are going to become the largest purchasers and are becoming already the largest purchasers in the consumer market of any type of service. And so they want to understand exactly what are they being billed for. They want to know those fees up front. And when they know those fees up front, they are considering that attorney to be more credible. They have a higher trust for that attorney and those services. And so it's really translating into a better experience and then reflecting an increase in satisfaction of those reviews and ratings that they're posting online. So being transparent is key. People need to know what they're paying for, what the value that they're receiving, because the average person today also isn't setting aside discretionary funds for legal services, just like they aren't setting aside for many other services in life as well. So the more transparency that is available to consumers, the higher likelihood they are in seeking out your services as well. And tip 4, request feedback. So listen to your clients. Coming to an attorney in a consumer perspective is no different than finding a dentist, a doctor, a plumber. And I don't say that to marginalize legal services or the expertise that attorneys bring to the table. I simply state that as a fact that consumers expect attorneys to have consumer reviews. Consumers generally are also open to providing unsolicited online reviews. So I think it's important to understand that 80% of the age group of 18 to 34-year-olds have written a review on services that they've received, comparatively to just 41% of consumers that were over the age of 55. So that 18 to 34-year-old population, again, is going to be and is the largest consumer-based market. 80% of those individuals are going to write a review. So I think the important piece of this is requesting feedback gives you a little bit of control in that process. Reflecting and saying, are you offering an easy and inexpensive way to capture feedback? Are there ways that your clients can share that on your website? There's many affordable tools out there that you can leverage, and would recommend even sending out a brief online survey or some type of mechanism that people are able to provide you more information about their experience. Not only is this great in hearing all of the positive, wonderful things that your firm is doing and what you've done and the differences you've made in your clients' lives, but it's also a really great way to identify where the opportunities in your firm are. Where can you even heighten that service level even more? And then when you're doing that, what are those key performance indicators, or KPIs as they're called or referred to, and how is that feedback aligning with those key performance indicators so that those metrics that you're tracking, you can say, what are my measurables or my standards, and is this meeting that? As always, always ask that you're following and looking to your state bar rules and guidelines to make sure that you're doing that within those parameters, but really seeking out that feedback as well. Not only will that give a proactive channel for people to share about their services, but it'll also give you an opportunity to identify where some of those improvements and enhancements can be made into your firm. So tip 5, own your activity that's posted on review sites. So if you don't currently have the capability to host feedback on your website, then invite clients to leave feedback on other sites. There are many general consumer sites such as Google and Facebook and Yelp, and there's also very much high frequency of legal rating survey sites as well. And so steering people to, promoting them to review, offer a review, offer a rating, can really help your profile on a site page as well. And if you have the ability, many of those sites also provide ways where you can connect with them and link that review site to your website. So your people that are coming to your firm and researching your firm online before they connect with you are already going to be connected to those reviews. So it's one way that as individuals, since we already know consumers, a majority of consumers are doing that front end research first before even reaching out and using it to determine what attorney they go to, why not present that all in one place for them? And that's also limiting the amount of time they're going to spend jumping off your firm's website and possibly identifying other options. So number 6, I think this is a great one. Consider bad reviews a gift. I know that sounds funny, but it really is. Less than positive reviews can highlight service gaps, as I shared before, and it might be things you're not even aware of. And some of the ratings and reviews you receive might offer solutions and suggestions that can help you improve your client experience or identify where in that journey the breakdown might be or the disconnect with how you're perceiving your services and how a client is perceiving your services. So always consider any feedback. I always say the gift of feedback. Tip 7, acknowledge feedback. This doesn't mean respond quick and shoot off a public response, whether that's to negate a negative review or reinforce a positive review. Have time to process the feedback, and again, don't look at it in isolation. Look at the overall feedback that your clients are providing you, not just the isolated feedback standalone from one person. You can identify themes that way. When you have time to process that feedback, then you can start identifying too where you fell short on some expectations if you did, and you can respond and share it, thanking them, and that you're addressing that issue, or take it offline and reach out to that person to say, help me understand how I could have provided better service for you. So I would say never, obviously key, never include confidential information if you do decide to publicly respond. And remember that client confidentiality extends to public sites. And know that 89% of consumers read businesses' responses to reviews. So it's not just the person that you're responding to, it's everyone that is going out there and reading those reviews is also reading your response and how you decided to approach that. So I know there's also out there some training opportunities and coaching in how to respond to reviews, not just in the legal industry, but in general to consumers. And I would say based on the responses to reviews I've seen attorneys do within public sites, I think it is always worthwhile to understand how you can frame things in a way that is understandable to a consumer. And I would say, along with acknowledging feedback of your clients, acknowledge the good feedback. Thank people for their reviews, and not just the consumer. If you do have office staff or other individuals working with you or service providers answering the phones, thank them, recognize them. We have an attorney that we work with, Brian Zimmett, who does an excellent job. Great firm to model after if you're looking for insights on that. Publicly on social media, thanks his staff when they receive a public positive review or rating, and brings in food to the entire office, or has the entire office engage in an activity. So support that culture that you're creating within your firm for that client experience as well. So let's talk about how to get more reviews. More reviews actually have been shown in the consumer market to lend to the credibility that people are perceiving of your services, of yourself or your firm. So things you can do and steps you can take are claim your Google My Business listing and make sure your profile is complete. Make sure someone has the full picture of who you are and what you offer. Google, Yelp, and Facebook are among the top online sites where consumers look for reviews. A big part of why Google ranks high is consumers see anytime Google interprets their search more like a local search. So the Google algorithm predicts you're looking for something nearby, shows you those businesses and locations in your vicinity, and accounts for all those other third-party searches too. So, you know, Google tends to be the review site of choice, and 63.6% of consumers say they're likely to check online reviews on Google before those other sites. So make sure that you've done a Google search on yourself. I think it's really important, and you'll be surprised sometimes what it pulls back. And do this regularly so you can see what sites you are coming up on, what those ratings and reviews are, and really control your own profile. And actively curate those reviews. So create an informative website that displays your reviews that we've talked about. Again, you can have those sites linked to your site. Update your email signature to include a link to your website as well. And I would say within your email signature too, what I've seen attorneys do really well is put badges on your signature picker. So, you know, if you've received outstanding customer service awards or are recognized or champions in your community, put those badges within your signature picker so it's a quick identifier for clients to recognize that as well. Maintain an active and professional social media presence. Now everyone's looking to social, whether it's Twitter, whether it's LinkedIn. Ensure that your profiles are complete on those sites as well. And display in your office when people are there physically and on your website, where can clients find and post reviews for you? Steer them in the direction that you would like to see them go or prefer to see them go. And then if you are working with legal insurance or legal plans and working with those clients, keep your profile on those sites up to date. I think one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and your firm is to have a complete profile and learn what it means to humanize your profile. Every consumer assumes, you know, likely that you have gone to law school. They may not know the differences in law schools or what that means to them, but they do understand how are you serving their community, what are you doing, who are you interacting with, how have you helped people. Bringing that human aspect to your profile helps people identify with you. Are there certain people within your communities or groups that you're working with? Do you speak different languages? Are there different cultural populations you know, that you are serving that people can see on your website and understand by looking there? And then ask for client feedback in your collateral materials. You know, business card, email, a case closing letter, you know, share how can I better serve you? You know, thank you for your experience and investing in me and our partnership. Tell me how I can continue to enhance that for you moving forward. And in doing that, it's also putting out a positive assumption that you are going to be working with each other again in the future, and that will be a return client, and that's meaningful to you, that this isn't a one case and done, that you are looking for that longer term relationship. Clients don't assume that, they have to hear that, and that can be through your follow-up response. And then again, consider providing you know, incentive for clients to provide feedback on your site, obviously according to your compliance of your state's rules, but you know, are there ways to discount their services or offer discounts to their referrals of friends and family? And for you, that's also a great way to add to your portfolio and your business. So being active on social sites as well and having those fully completed profiles, increases your visibility. And then again, check those frequently and then respond as needed if people are sharing information out there in response to your profiles. And so legal provider, plan provider resources, if you are working with legal plans like ARAG, or legal insurance like ARAG, then, and you don't have your own method to collect ratings and reviews, then let your legal plan provider know that ARAG, we help attorneys collect that feedback and share that with them, that we are surveying those clients on every interaction and sharing that so attorneys can create a full profile to show those reviews out there and give them the advantage. Members are and clients are more drawn and apt to seek out an attorney that has visible reviews on their profile. We've even heard that 88% of our plan members are likely to refer their network attorney to friends and family. So this is a great benefit for attorneys. Not only does it survey or summarize and share your ratings and reviews on your profiles on these legal plan sites, but it's behind a secure login that you can update your profile and provides you insight again on what's working really well in your firm and where your opportunities for improvement are. You can apply these learnings not just for the clients you might be serving through a legal plan, but to your holistic practice, ensuring that any client you work with is providing this as receiving the same level of service. As you can see by that stat, our friends and family of those people that are using the plan equates to additional business growth opportunities for attorneys that are participating. So, dream state in the client journey experience is seeing a review that says, I went to see the attorney. It was fast, it was painless, exactly what I wanted. He treated me very kindly, and I will refer him to my friends and family. So ideal state, right? This is where we all want to be in the world of ratings and reviews. So I hope that in taking the time to kind of understand and talk through why consumers are leveraging ratings and reviews, and that this is one of the first techniques and that they are going to employ before they reach out to an attorney to seek out services, and then understanding those key tips and tools that you could be implementing in your firm if you haven't already will help you get everybody involved in that client experience and have measurable KPIs or key performance indicators, and share that with your staff if you do have others that you're working with in your office. In really kind of executing all of those tips to the height of your ability, it's going to create and result in happier, more loyal clients, fantastic reviews, and growing business for you. So I thank everyone for taking the time to go through that with me, and I would open it up to receive any comments or questions from the audience.
So it looks like we have a couple questions here. The first one is, do state bar rules apply to ratings and reviews for attorneys?
It's typically found within the rules of professional responsibility or your ethics rules. So you do want to check that within each state. It's not necessarily that you can or can't have ratings and reviews. It's more in the way that how attorneys may prompt or post ratings and reviews or respond to ratings and reviews. So it's more in the technical aspect of how am I soliciting ratings and reviews. So that is the key piece that you're really going to want to look through that for, if that makes sense.
Our next question is, do you have statistics on how many customers seek reviews for attorneys compared to what they do for other services they may be seeking?
Actually, it is very similar. People don't differentiate between industry. A consumer is a consumer, and they're seeing that service as any other service or product. That they are really leveraging reviews in all aspects of their life. And I think, I was thinking, I refer back to, I'd have to look specifically, but it was around 82% of consumers are looking online before seeking any type of service in any industry for a review too, because people now are able to research the background, the experience, see ratings and reviews. That's going to help shape where they go to reach out to first.
It looks like that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank all of you for attending our webinar, and I'd also like to give a special thank you to Jean for presenting today. And with that, we will now conclude the webinar.
Thank you, Gabby, and thank you, everyone.